Hello everyone, I'm Pastor Dylan and welcome to the Dayspring Wesleyan Church podcast. The best way to stay connected to the life of the church is downloading our app. Simply go to the App Store, search for Church Center, and download the app and enter the information for our church. This will connect you to our church community. I pray the following presentation will inspire you to come closer to God in this journey of faith. Enjoy listening.
I'm going to pray just real quick, the psalm that we're going to be reading, and then we will jump into the message. So, Father, thank you for today. Thank you for being our shepherd so that we lack nothing. Thank you for making us lie down in green pastures, leading us beside quiet waters, refreshing our soul. Thank you for guiding us on right paths for your name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. Lord, thank you for being there with me. Your rod and your staff comforting us. You prepare a table for us before our enemy, and you anoint our heads with oil. Surely your goodness and love will follow us all the days of our life. We will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Lord, clean up anything that I say that is not of you and let it fall flat on its face. And if it is of you, Lord, then allow for it to stick to our heart. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so today I'm hoping there's some people who are probably here in great moods. Like this is a good time. They're going through a good phase in life. But also I know that in life things can be a bit of a struggle. There can be times when seasons change, and just like those seasons, so do our path. And so maybe we're going through a very difficult season right now, and it feels like everything around us is crumbling. If that's you, I hope today will offer you hope and peace in those moments. And then for those of you who are here and you're feeling great, I hope today offers you fulfillment, something that will sustain you as the next season in life that comes, and you will have that from this point. And so, seasons, paths, they change. No matter what's going on, eventually at some point it will change. There's always change that happens in our life, sometimes controlled and sometimes uncontrolled. But in each and every moment, we need someone to guide us. We need something outside of ourselves to guide us. And there's no question about it. We must be led by something other than ourselves. And the reason that I say that is because in the Bible, we are referred to as sheep over 200 times. 200 times. And if you don't know anything about sheep, sheep are not intelligent animals. They're not at all. So I don't know if that's hurtful or a good thing, but no, ultimately, we're referred to as sheep in the sense of a role. The sheep's role is to follow the shepherd, and the shepherd's role is to give the sheep everything that it needs. And so, when we read through Scripture, we need to understand what a sheep is, because I'm not a sheep farmer. I don't even know if that's what you say, if it's sheep farming or not, but I don't have sheep. Let me just say it that way. And so I want to give you some fun facts about sheep real quick. So in communities where they are herded, they are considered property and not wild animals. They are frequently purchased at a high price. They require a lot of care, especially at birth. They are unable to take good care of themselves. They have no defense system to protect themselves. They generally die if there's not something guiding them or shepherding them. They are prone to wander. They typically cannot make it home on their own. And it takes them a long time to learn something, but then they forget easily. And so they may learn the voice of their shepherd, but if they're out in the pasture for too long, they forget. And so ultimately, here's some fun facts. As I begin to think through it, I'm like, man, I actually I fit the role of a sheep. And I think I do. Definitely the word got that one right. I'm prone to wander. I like to sometimes do my things on my own, and so I can do that. And at the end of the day, I can always try to protect myself, but usually those protections end up hurting me in some way, shape, or form, or they hurt somebody else. So my actual idea of protection isn't really the protection the Lord had for me. And so I don't know about you, but I feel as though I am definitely a sheep. And there are times when I feel like I have this idea of self-reliance that I can do things on my own, but at the end of it, I realize I can't do anything on my own that leads to the right path. And so as I set that into perspective, I realize that I need and that we need a good shepherd. We need someone who has purchased us at a very high price. Jesus Christ gave his life over for us so that we may have everlasting life. He lived a life that guided us. He had the perfect life, and he showed us what to walk after. And then he gave us hope in the resurrection that we will make it to the green pastures, which I will talk about later, but we will make it to the green pastures. We have a good shepherd. And if we read throughout the Old Testament into the New Testament, we see how the Lord provided even though we did not follow the right steps. We see how he did exactly what he needed to. And so I thank God for that. And so we open up into Psalm 23, which was the prayer that I ended up praying, and we see David as he reflects on his life in a difficult moment. We don't know exactly when it was written, but what we can take from it as the way it is written is that it was a difficult moment in his life. And he begins to reflect on the things that are going on. When life seems so delicate, he recognizes something important. And it is this: the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Imagine in all the burdensome moments, or when life just feels like it is being torn apart, you have doubt, uncertainty, unresolved brokenness, unanswered questions, regrets, or you're just wandering through life and you don't know what to do, and you recite those words: the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. See, King David had a belief. It wasn't just some slogan that he said to get better in the moment. He believed deep down that the Lord was the one who was going to guide him and that he could not do anything. He believed it. He understood it. And as reflecting across his life, he see how God has brought him from one place to the next, and that the Lord was his shepherd. The Lord was the one providing for him and the one that is providing for him. And so we begin to pull this apart and understand it. Like, we have to know that if this is not our base belief, we will have things that come in and attack us, and we will feel all this worry and stress of life. But when we focus on what is true about him being our shepherd and we lack nothing, we can have freedom. See, David was a king, and before that he was a shepherd. And so, as he was a shepherd, he would have known the relationship between the sheep and the shepherd. He knew everything. He knew what it took to put in the work wise to protect the sheep, to feed the sheep, to lead them along paths to get to the next pasture. He knew how it worked. And even in that, he realizes, he goes, I am the sheep. Imagine being a great king who has all of these people under you, and you're like, I actually can't lead any of you. The only one who can lead you is the true shepherd, and I must fall submission to that too. Submitting to the Lord is so important. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. This verse influences the rest of the verses. If you don't get this one, the rest of them don't make a whole lot of sense. And so that's why it's so important that we understand that being submissive to God, the shepherd, is that important. It's a bold claim. The Lord is my. He didn't say our, as in you guys and me. He said my shepherd. It is claiming that I have to submit. David had to submit to the shepherd. And that we too will have to say, this is my shepherd, and submit to him. This is good for us to understand when we think about our life. When you think about your life, who is shepherding you? Because I can tell you some of the things that have shepherded me. Fear has shepherded me at times. I will allow fear to come in instead of looking to the one who is going to give me what I need, and then the fear will move me in which direction. I have let just misguided beliefs that when I was raised up, I had this idea not to trust anybody. It was a belief that happened. I felt like a lot of people abandoned me in my life, such as like school teachers and coaches and friends, and that just was there. So I had this misguided belief that was shepherding me in every relationship that I ever had. And so there's these moments or issues that we have that shepherd us. Maybe it's your pride and arrogance, your unhealthy desires, or maybe it's your friend who never tells you no. Yeah, You need to get friends that tell you no. That's important. We'll talk about that later. And then also social media. Sometimes we'll go to our phone to teach us about Jesus, and we'll listen to all these different people who can say anything about any verse that they've ever read, but we never picked up the Bible to see if that was even true. Who is shepherding us? The reality is when we are sheep that follow other sheep, we jump off cliffs. That will make sense because in Istanbul, there were a couple shepherds who had sheep, and they took them and put them in a pen so that they could go and have lunch. This pen had a fence on 3 sides, and then one side was a cliff. And so these sheep are having fun, doing sheep things. And one of them decided to jump off the cliff. And then this sheep over here saw it and was like, oh, okay, that looks like fun. Jump, and another one, and another one. 450 sheep jumped off the edge. This is a true story. 450 sheep jumped off. It was over $100,000 in profit that was lost that day. The reality is when we are sheep that follow sheep, we jump off cliffs. But when we look to the one true God and submit to him, he will give us all that we need, and all of it will be provided. We know that the shepherd is good, and here's why. You have breath in your lungs today. He's brought you to this church today to hear something. Not only that, he sent his son to live a life being the perfect guide for us. He died being sinless so that we might live. He then resurrected, giving us the hope in what is yet to come. But not only did he didn't stop there. He said, hey, I'm going to give you the Holy Spirit to walk with you in life, to also provide everything that you need to help correct you, help nudge you, help move you forward. See, that sounds like a very good God to me. He also created me. He has a plan purposed for me. He adopts us to be his children. That God sounds like a God worth following. That shepherd is the one I know I can put my trust in. But when I think about our life and the culture we live in of self-reliance, or this idea that we don't need a guide, I don't need someone to protect me, I can do it all on my own, it is no wonder that we have stress, worry, and anxiety. It's no wonder this life is riddled with hardships that we can't get through. It's because we're not putting our eyes on the one thing that matters. We chase after temporary highs and things that leave us unfulfilled instead of searching after the thing that restores, redeems, and reconciles us to him. That is the Good Shepherd. And so I want you to listen to this again. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. Did you see how that first verse influenced the second one? If the Lord is our shepherd, we are led to green pastures. If the Lord is our shepherd, we are led beside quiet waters. Without that, you are only chasing after the dirt path and the things that you will never bring you fulfillment. And see, the thing that I love the most is that our shepherd knows what we need and when we need it. He knows when we need to be in the green pasture. He knows when we need to be in the quiet waters. And he knows when to take us on the road that will refine us and prepare us for what is next so that we can rest in the next green pasture. The Lord knows it. I don't. And so in this, we must understand that we can't rest in the pasture because we're paranoid. And just like sheep are paranoid, before a sheep can rest in a pasture, it must be well fed, must eat, it must be well fed. And not only is it well fed, it cannot have friction. So the shepherd has to move them and give them some space so that they have their own little space. They have to feel safe, and they have to get flies out of the wool of the sheep because they feel like there's something, like a spider. If I said you had a spider on you, you feel like it's antsy. That's what it's about. So these things have to be taken care of before a sheep will lie down and rest. And by the way, I said fur earlier. Sheep have wool, not fur. So if there's any sheep people in here, I apologize. But ultimately, we understand that the Lord is making sure that we are taken care of. He feeds us, he protects us, he removes the friction, and takes away the unwanted pests and things from our lives. He teaches us those things and shows us how to do it. Another way of saying it, or a way that I would like to say it, is God is our GPS, he's our gas money and our seatbelt. Does that make sense? If you're driving a car, he's our GPS, he guides us. He's our gas money, what puts fuel in your tank. And then he is your seatbelt, what provides you safety. He is that. And I believe that we miss a lot of our pasture moments. When we're supposed to be resting, we run past it from one path to the next and completely miss where we're supposed to rest. And the reason I say that is because a pasture is lush, it offers abundance, safety, rest, fulfillment, and to be satisfied. And if I look around the room and I said, when was the last time you had that? Or are you still thriving, or not thriving, like you're needing that? Most of you would probably say, yes, I wish that I was sitting in it. I wish that I had that fulfillment, that satisfaction. So I can make the claim that we run past it more often than sitting in it and being filled. And the sad thing is I know that I too have run from one to the next. I love chaos. I am a very ambitious person. I love to do one task, and there's another task that's always right here that I can make, oh, cool, let me do this too. And so I go and I fill my life with tasks. I continue to put them on me. And the reality is that I need to be made to lie down. And it says, the Lord, or he, makes me lie down in green pastures. I need to be made to lie down at times. Just like the sheep need to be made to rest in that pasture. And there's this great thing that the Lord blessed me with, and it's this idea that I got married, and so when you get married, you get a spouse, and my wife. She's a great blessing. And in this way, okay, you ready? I am so ambitious and want to do things that she says, you can't do that. You need to rest and stay home. Thank you, all right? Thank you for that. Thank you for that rest, because the Lord has placed you in my life to slow me down so that I am restful and seeing the goodness that he's placed before me. I thank him for a boss. When I'm doing so much in ministry and I start doing things that are not necessarily like in my direct line of work, he goes, hey, I need you to pull back so that you can focus on where God has put you with the youth and with outreach. Thank you for doing that. And there are times when I will work so hard that I won't sleep or I won't eat right, and I get dog sick, and I'm just laying there exhausted, and I'm down for 3 or 4 days. Thank you for making me rest. See, when we begin to shift our mind, we can see things in a new light. Even in the sense of COVID, which was so bad for a lot of us. I get that. But it made us refocus. It slowed the busyness down, and we could rest. We have to continue to look at God's pasture, not ours, because his will always look different than ours. Sometimes they will align, and we will see the pasture as what he has for us, but oftentimes it may look different. Just like the path that you think is best for your life may look different. And so I don't know what path you're on, but I want us to do this together, because this is kind of what we do in youth group at times, is there's this repeat thing. And so we're just going to repeat some verses. Are you ready? The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. Can we be content in those words? Can we trust that our God truly is the provider of all things, even when it doesn't go the way that we want? Can we truly put our faith in him when the route that we are about to step on is unfamiliar? That one has been the most difficult for me. I have seen the Lord's goodness in so many things, and the reason that I stand here today is because of his goodness. I have confidence that his way is better than my own. And I guarantee you, if you reflect on your life, you'll begin to see reasons why you're still here today. And I'll tell you, if you have breath in your lungs, there's a reason you are here today. He is not done with you, and he has a path before you. But these pastures that we walk into are a direct result of following the shepherd. Without him being your shepherd, you will never find rest, true fulfillment and rest. And so we must be content in those words. And then I begin to ask, what are the pastures that the Lord has taken you to? What one are you in now? It could be this church. This could be the only rest that you get for your entire week. It could be a friend group that God has placed in your life for a season in your life to prepare you and fill you. It could be a mentor. It could be a job. It could be a small group, or whatever has brought you nourishment and rest. Those are the pastures that the Lord has given you. And if you look at them, how good they have been for our life. He leads me beside quiet waters, soaking up his presence, restoring my soul. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Oh, how I know pain and hardship and trouble all too well. And I'll tell you this, I have perfect attendance for my own sin. And that every time I fell or sinned, there were two paths laid before me. There was one path that led to God, which elevated his name, his purpose, his glory, and that path had a guide. And then there's the other path, which oftentimes I have chosen, which is all about selfishness, all about reaping struggle and pain on others and myself. There were two paths. But when we follow the path of God laid before us, it can redeem us, reconcile us, and make us new. And some of those moments will be refining. There will be moments at which we follow the Lord that will be hard. I say that because that is true. There are moments when I have followed him and it has brought about a better me. The bad things in my life needed to be removed so that the good things the Lord had could be placed in my life so that I could be more and more like Christ each and every day. Those are the rocky roads going from one pasture to the next. There may be sunny roads. There may be moments when it's foggy and you can't see your hand in front of you because you're so confused at what's going on. But stay on the path. And I give you this story from my life, which happened before I came to Dayspring. Before I came here, I had a path laid before me, what I wanted. I wanted to be the youth pastor at the church at which I started my faith journey. I was dead set on it. This was the life and the path for me. Lord, you called me to be a pastor. I accepted you here. This makes sense. It's going to work out. I'm doing the work. And so I had volunteered there, and I was leading the youth group. I wasn't getting paid, and they got to this place to where it was like, hey, there's this full-time position opening up. We want to interview you. Yeah, here it is. Teed up, right? No. I drove an hour to the interview. I sat in the lobby for 2 hours. They came out at the end of the 2 hours and said, we're not going to interview you. Okay, that was weird. What do you mean? No answer. I didn't get an answer. I still to this day do not have an answer on why I was not accepted. I drove an hour back to school. That hour back to school, me and the Lord had some words. Yes, we did. I was angry. I was like, you called me to this, and now I'm not doing it? What is this? This doesn't make sense. I didn't want to be a pastor. I didn't want to walk in this life. Man, being a steel factory worker was so much better. What is this? I wasn't in debt before. Now I'm in debt. What is this? Like, I was angry, frustrated, and bitter. But I chose to stay on the path. The next 6 months, I continued to go back to that youth group. I continued to love those kids. And I helped give this flock that I had helped raise to some degree over to a new shepherd who would point them to Jesus. It was the most difficult thing that I've ever walked through. I would get in the car angry. I would get out, put on the face of love, get back in the car angry. Like, it was rough. And at the end of the 6 months, the Lord had begun to slowly pick at my heart and say, this isn't for you. This isn't yours. Okay. At the end of that 6 months, a friend of mine who is a mentor to me, and I love him dearly, says, there's this job. I can't pay you. Those are the words you want to hear. No, I can't. Right? So, and I was like, okay, okay, let me think about it. I'll pray on it. He was planning a church, and so for the next 3 months, I went and I would help them during this church plant. And I was still in college, and Bo was my professor, and he said, hey, there's this opportunity at Dayspring. There might be an interview. What do you think? And so I went back to the mentor that I was working with, and I told him, and he said, the interview doesn't hurt. Okay. So I went back and said yes. I came here and I interviewed with Pastor Chuck, and he offered me a practice round, not the full thing, but a practice round, and goes, here, we'll check it out. And so I was like, okay, I'll pray about it. So I went back to my mentor, and I began to pray, and I said, they offered this. I don't think I'm ready. I think this job is way more than anything I could do. It's double any youth group I've ever worked with. There's no possible way that I'm prepared. And he said, you are better than you think, and I can't keep you forever. I have to let you go. Go do what God has for you. Wow. Being released from that to go here was amazing. And so I said yes, I came here, and I'm now obviously here. So there's that. But I want to say this to you. This church over the last 4 years has been the most gracious church that me and my family has ever been a part of. That's you. I thank you for everything you've done for us, for making us feel loved and valued and cared for. This is our pasture. And as we began to open up this word and work through it, actually sitting in that this week has been a blessing. And so I thank you for that. And God, if you listen to the story, was far better to me than I could have been for myself, because that other situation crumbled. And so I thank God for bringing us here. And so, when there is a path in our life, there will always be limitations on what we know and what we do not know, where we will end up. But God always knows the end of that story. He was here in the beginning, and he will be here when it is done being written. And so therefore, let's put our faith and our hope in that, so that he will lead us to the ultimate green pasture, sitting in a kingdom with Christ and each other, full of love, no more pain, sorrow, or hurt. That is the one that I want to follow. And so in this, it is not our job to pick the path. It is our job to follow. It is God's job to lead and walk it with us. It is God's reputation on the line. It is his name, and so he will not go against his character. He will redeem us. He will reconcile us. He will care for us. He will give us exactly what we need, even when we don't think we need it. But we have to put all that trust in it. And so he is a good shepherd, and he is my shepherd. And I hope that today, as we give you some space, he will be your shepherd. That you'll put all of your faith and trust in him and be content in him, because all of the other things will begin to fade away, and the things that matter most are on him. You don't have to pick the path. You just have to follow. So we're going to give you some space as a song plays. And if you just want some prayer, you can come on up. We will pray with you. If you just need some contentment in your life, we will pray with you so that you put that in the Good Shepherd. If you want to lay at the feet of Jesus, thanking him for all that he's given to you, the altars are open for that as well. Ultimately, we'll just open up some space for you to be with Jesus. There'll be a song that plays, and on the screen there will be prompts for you to answer as you sit at your seats if you don't feel led to come forward. And you can just work through that. It's just a reflection on your life. But we are here to pray for you. And so the song will play, and we'll go from there.
Thanks again for listening. If you are located in the Marion area, we would love to have you join us at one of our Sunday morning gatherings. For directions, service times, and information about our fantastic children and student ministries, please visit us at dayspringwesleyan.org. That's dayspringwesleyan.org.